Good afternoon, students. Welcome back to the lab safety course. In today's lecture, we will discuss about different personal protection equipments. These are the equipments that's commonly used in the laboratory conditions while you are working in different experiments, or whether you are working on different equipments or you are working on different chemicals, as well as like different gases or whatever, like the cabinets you are working. So you have to protect your different body parts while you are working into the different under different conditions. So in detail we will discuss in today's lecture about the different PPE. Those are commonly used in all labs as well as in different workplaces. For example, if somebody is like working on to different sites like engineering, so they have like a kind of a specialized PPE for their protections. Before we start to work in the lab, so we should know about these 5 questions. For instance, the first question is, what is the health and safety about? So if we understand this question, then of course we will take care about the health and the safety. So prevent the people, of course, from getting hurt, or like we cannot put someone in danger while we are working in the labs. Okay, so at that time, if we understand this question, then of course we can take like right precautions, and of course we can also provide a satisfactory like working environment for ourselves as well as for our colleagues or the friends those are working, or those are working in the same lab, or like those are working on the same working bench. So the second question is why there are health and safety laws. So in previous lectures we discussed a little bit about the laws. So why these are like health and safety laws? So since health and safety at work is so important, and if there are not like the certain laws, the legal restrictions, then of course might be like the people will not take care. Although like mostly or like we know like this is our moral duty to work safely, or to not put someone else in the danger, or like take care everybody, right? But even then this is our legal duty, okay? So not to put the life of other people into the dangers. So this is the second question. So question number third is, do health and safety laws apply to me? Of course, to everyone. Okay, so legally everybody is bound to follow the rules and regulation about the safety. And the question number fourth is, what is the role of RMO? In last lecture I mentioned about the RMO. RMO is a risk management office. This is a kind of one a unit inside the SQU. I think they are located on the second floor of the Bank Muscat inside the SQU, and their role is uh, to check the people whether they are stick with the rules and regulation, because once you enter into each lab, so they each lab also equipped with the rules and regulation, and this they put like a display the regulations on the entrance, each entrance. Okay, and also they investigate if there is any accident or like any incidents happens, and they also accept the complaints, and then of course they follow up about the incidents, and then they take care about these the things, and they also help to understand what you need to do, like for example if there is any incidents, and of course they follow up and they do like a certain the risk assessment procedures, and of course they get rid of whatever like the danger or the hazard is there in the lab. And the last question, do I have to contact a RMO? Okay, so of course no, you don't need being a worker, being a student, you don't need to. So but you can report if there is any incidents. You can report to the department representative. For example, if the doctor is there, or definitely if doctor is not available in the lab, then technician definitely will be there. And most of the labs, they are equipped with the one of the office of the technician, or you can say like the lab person. Okay, so you can just update the to that person, and then of course he will forward the report to the department or whatever the legal process is. Okay, so these are the basic information, of course, you should know about before you enter into the lab. Also, you need to always remember while working in the lab, for instance, if there is any hazardous chemical, so you always handle just as unknown. So you should be like very careful, okay? So don't be like the overconfident. And secondly, there are certain the small equipments or like mechanical transfer devices like pipette you can see. So this is the pipette man. So this equipment, small equipment is used to transfer the chemicals, whether this is a hazardous or non-hazardous. So this can transfer like to user. So here you can see this is a transfer of some chemicals like just by hands or like mechanical way. But mostly like for the this pipette one is very useful. So always we use this one because it equipped with different types of the tips, so they have like a different capacity, so they can different solutions, and also regarding the bioaerosols, so always when if you are working on any chemical or any biochemicals, and if it contains bioaerosols, then of course always use these biosafety cabinets, okay. And these biosafety cabinets are these the flame hoods, so they are equipped with certain exhaust and other like very secure like protocols they contain, and always use these biosafety cabinets as well as a flame hood according to the chemicals. If the chemical is volatile, so use the flame hood, and if it contains bioaerosol, so bioaerosol use, I think you are familiar. Bio mean bio, of course, and aerosol is the small airborne particles. Nowadays it's very common like the COVID-19, like the air droplets, like okay, so there are small size like the particles. So those have like biological natures, okay. So if you are working on such the pollens or something like the tree or the plants pathogen something, those have like biological origin, okay. So or you are working with some organism, those are living organisms, for example bacteria or fungus, so always use these the biosafety cabinets, okay. And if you are taking or using like some chemicals, those are volatile and they can make like some the fumes, so you always use these the fume hoods, okay. So don't like open any chemical or use the bioaerosols in open or like the working normal working bench. And also you must know about the physical forms of the different chemicals. For example, if there is a gas, or whether this is a gas or the fume, or it's produced like just fine particles or solid matter, okay. So about the nature of the droplets, for example, if mix some chemicals, they produce vapors. So if you understand the nature of the chemicals or the physical form of the chemical, then accordingly you can select, like for example, fume hood or biosafety cabinets. And of course you also must know about the route of entry of how like the chemicals can go into your body. So there are different routes, for example through the breathing, like inhalation or like a skin absorption, okay. So if any chemical touch on your skin, then of course it can absorb into your body. And of course like injection and ingestion. So there are the different, like for example, if there is a minor cut or sharp cut, you have cut in your body, and then of course to avoid like certain chemicals, those can inject into your body. And similarly the ingestion, of course, as I mentioned, if you want to transfer some chemicals, don't use like your body parts, like for example the through the mouth, okay. So there are different like the equipments like a pipe man, etc. So you can use those equipment, so that there are less chances to ingest any chemicals. And of course many chemicals are very toxic. They have the toxicity if you're working in the lab. And of course it depends on the lab level, as well as the lab where you are working. Some of course might be like have more dangerous chemicals, while others they have less toxic chemicals. So these terminologies definitely will help, like for example if you are using different chemicals, and then definitely there is a mention on the label about these toxins or their actions. For example, acute, sometimes it's mentioned like this chemical has acute effects. So it means like these chemicals have adverse, health effect. Okay. So even if you expose to the short term, like, even then they are very dangerous. For example, if you are used like 1 or 2 times, so even then if you are did not like carefully use those chemicals, not properly like follow the protocols, and then might be and then of course the second is chronic effects. So some chemicals they have like chronic effects. For example, if one chemical someone is working like 10 years 20 years, of course, so slowly if he is through the breathing or inhalation or taking that chemical, so might be after 10 or 15 years it will show like a certain symptoms. And of course a latency period of diseases. Sometime if you are working on like a biopathogens, so might be like it will take so the time from infection to infectiousness. Okay, so it will the time in between is called the latency period of the disease. Might be like this is a certain period that like the from infection to cause infectious ones, like the pathogen cause. So if the best example is COVID-19, so nowadays you can see like some people are like the carrier, as well as like the others are the healthy, and the last the option is of course the infected one. Okay, so the infected they are the infected one we say like once they're showing like symptoms. Okay, so infection to infectiousness, it means it start replication and start producing a certain protein, and then the pathogen become like dangerous, or we call it infectious or infectiousness. So sensitizer, a chemical that causes allergic reactions. This is very important if certain chemicals, and mostly like if someone or like the student has any any doubt, or like they have any complaint about the allergy. If someone has allergic reaction, be careful about like using the chemical. Those have like sensitizers. The cautions. Let's talk about the personal protective equipment. So personal protective equipments uh, are used for the safety purposes. So these are the equipment that can be used while you are working in the lab or in any workplace. So they prevent you from the injury or any danger or from any hazard, and also while creating a barrier between the body parts of the worker, and as well as from the source of any hazards, for example biological agent hazard or chemicals. Okay, so if you are working on biological hazards, of course then it's providing like the protection or the barrier. And if you are working on the chemical hazards, of course so this act as a barrier. And of course it block the PP block the routes of exposure. So in this way, if you are using like proper PP, so your body part is not exposed to that particular hazard. So this PP is only effective correctly once you selected the right PP, fitted one, and also you care for. For example, this is very important to know like when PP is necessary. So for example, you can decide as a worker in the lab, so when PP is necessary. Okay, if you know like what you are going to do, then of course you understand when you need this PP. And of course which PP. If you are working some gases, of course if that's relevant to your face or your eyes, then of course you have to protect your eyes and face also. Okay, so if you are normal working, then maybe like you want to cover your body and you only like need a lab coat, okay, and gloves, etc. And of course limitation of PP. For example, there are certain the sensitive chemicals or the lights, for example the UV light. So you cannot sometimes use like ordinary like a PP for particular for more dangerous hazard. So each actually the hazard has their own PP. So it is so there are certain limitations for particular PP. And also you should be like very careful about the proper care, maintenance and disposal of the PP. So maintenance is actually in between, so while you are working, not mean like afterward. Okay, so of course this is the duty of the lab technician or like the management to provide like a right PP. But while you are working, so then you should actually take care. For example, if you are working and you wear the gloves and might be like the glove is the tear off and you did not bother it, right? So then it might be can cause like a danger to your body. So, and of course, while you finish your experiment, you need to dispose of the PP. This is your very important duty. So in this slide, you can see different types of PP according to the experiments. For example, if you have to cover your foot, you need like certain shoes. And of course, if you want to do some experiments where you need to cover your the eyes, and of course for the face, if there are chances of any chemical splashes or like any particle can hit your face. Okay, and if there is a lot of noise, you have to of course to avoid the heavy noises, you need like a certain puffs. And of course if there is a danger side, like for example workplace, if you are an engineer and you need to protect your head. Okay, and of course if you are from certain chemicals, you need certain gloves, etc., and the basic one. So these are actually the body parts. Of course you need the different PP about to cover these the body parts or first we will discuss about the body PPE. So this is needed when work presents a potential for contamination or injury of other body parts. So for example, legs, arms, back, chest. And because if you are facing a different like hot or cold metals or liquid sharp objects, right, chemicals, etc. So radiation. So these are of course all your body parts should be covered by using a certain PP. Uh, Here you can see certain types of body protection, for example, lab coats, gowns, and aprons. So there are like the commonly used three types of these, the body protections. So, these chemical resistant sleeves, so they are very important to protect your, the forearms, like you can see. So, for forearms, and these are very, very powerful, and they can save from certain chemical splashes, as well as if a spillage of chemicals happen, so because they are kind of waterproof and it will protect your body the forearms very easily. So since you need only like this part because your hands and this your forearm is involved in the dealing with the certain types of chemicals or hazardous chemicals. The second one is tweaky suits. So they are not flame resistant, but it should not like be used around the flame. And of course any flammable environments, so they can cause like the fire if you use these fleeky suits. And the last one is coveralls or general. They are for general cleaning. The normally you can see like certain people, those are doing like involved in cleaning, or sometime like in the on the agriculture farm. So some people use these one to avoid like any kind of oil or resin that can split on or like spill on their body parts. So they are commonly used for different the activities. Next one is hand PP. Hand PP is needed when work presents the potential of causing injury from physical, chemical, or radiation agents. So if you see like the examples of these hazards that can cause like for the hand, if you did not wear proper hand PP, so there are chances of harmful substances if you touch with the bare hands. sharp objects, of course they can cause cuts, abrasions or punctures your like a hand or fingers. And of course chemicals are thermal, they can also cause like thermal burns if there is like some chemicals they have these activities. And of course if electrical work high and low temperatures, because of course you have to work like certain media, and sometimes like you are using the ovens, and you have to boil some chemicals, and might be there are chances you can touch like a high temperature or maybe like a very low temperature, the certain chemicals or the mediums. So for those activities definitely you need to wear hand PPE. So in this slide, you can see these are the different types of hand PP, the gloves. Those are commonly used, and the different companies actually provide these different gloves, and also they have like a different functions according to the different job or different task. You can select these gloves. For example, you can see here. So this there is a, I think the nitrile gloves, and here you can see like a simple, very simple plastic glove, and here is a little better gloves, but even then still this is not like a high quality gloves, but here you can see like also a nylon, but little like normal quality gloves. Okay, so there are different like for example if you see here, so this is the heat protection gloves, and in the labs if you see, this is available close to the microwave oven, and you can find this one here. And there's sometime also this leather gloves also can be used while if you have to move a certain cylinder or some like heavy equipment in the labs. So this is a cryogenic gloves, very rare in some labs maybe have, and this is a cut resistant gloves. This is a different gloves, and although like all gloves are not available in all labs, but certain this is the very common gloves that you can see like almost in all labs. And this is for the welding purposes, those people who are engineering side, like they are working on some like heavy equipments, or maybe they are doing like some kind of welding the stuff. And sometimes like some these are the rubber plus fabric gloves, and they also used for different purposes. In this slide, you can see the commonly used three types of gloves in the labs. So you can see here is a nitrile, latex, and of course vinyl. So these three gloves are commonly see you can see the in the labs, and here is showing like different properties. According to these properties, they have like sometime like they provide like a good protection, some are very poor or some are good. So according to this table you can select which one you can easily identify. Okay, so most commonly nitrile is used in the hospital as well as in the the in agriculture college, but sometime vinyl is also available if this nitrile is but really like this latex, and these three actually very commonly used. Okay, so depending on the sources of the some labs, right? Let's have a look on the types of hand protection in detail. So if you see these three gloves, most likely they can be used for the same purposes. For example, body fluids, blood acids, except this nitrite glove, you can see this can be used for extra like fats and oils, but rest acids or like alkalis or like caustics or something like that, so they all almost same, except like it has oils, fat, and caustics, so these are extra protections. But these two gloves are almost the same usage, so they provide the resistance against the same the chemicals. But in this case you can see it has some extra, so that's why nitrile gloves are more popular. And but if you see here, so these are cotton gloves, so they provide kind of different protection because they provide the barrier between the glove and the skin, and also they can absorb some moisture. So now you cannot use these cotton gloves for each experiment, or whether this nitrile glove for every experiment. Okay, according to the nature of the experiment. For example, if there is a very hot chemical, for example, you just autoclave some chemicals or some media, and if you wear this glove and you just touch that hot the flask, so might be like it become touch it contact with your body, okay, because it will not like a heat resistance, okay. But at that time, this is a better to use like this one, or in the previous table there are certain types of gloves. And of course, if you are wearing continuously like 4 or 5 hours in the lab, and don't like wear gloves longer than 2 hours, like the same, the same pair, so you should change, because of course inside your under the gloves, so sometime you get wet, so you can get wet, there is a sweating, okay. So remove this one, and if you have even 5 minutes or 10 minutes, just the dry your skin, and then wear again a new pair of gloves. And also wash your hands once you remove the gloves, and definitely dispose of, okay. And do not save these gloves for future use. This is really very important, okay. And of course, there disposal should be the very specific one, not like in the normal or the regular garbage, or like the disposal. Of course, if you do not wear gloves out of the lab, of course, since this is only so mostly sometime I see if somebody is going outside the lab and still they are wearing even lab coats or like the gloves. So these are the PPEs, those you have to use like only in the labs. And of course, during the lab condition, or you are working in the experiments, it's very important to take care or maintenance of your gloves, so it will not like cut the cracks or like discoloration, okay. So if there is something happen, you should change the gloves, and of course replace it as soon as possible, as and when is. This slide is very important to know, to remember, to understand how to remove gloves if there is a spillage happen, or like if your gloves are contaminated with any chemicals. So how to remove it to avoid any further contamination or to your body parts, so you should carefully remove the gloves. So you have to follow these steps. So number one, just pinch and hold the outside of glove near the wrist area. Here you can see here, right? And number second, peel downward away from the wrist, turning the glove inside out, and then pull the glove away until it is removed from the hand, holding the inside out glove with the gloved, or the second hand. And then of course, with your ungloved hand, slide your fingers under the wrist, and then of course, remaining glove do not touch the outer surface of the glove. And number fifth, peel downward away from the wrist, turning the glove inside out. You can see here, so very clear here. And then number last, continue to pull the glove down and cover inside out glove being held in your gloved hand. So in this way you can cover, or you are not allowing the spillage or the chemical, so it cannot touch to your other body parts, or like other the your the the lab coats, or any other things. Footwear. So this is of course very important to remember whenever you are working or you have to go to the lab. So you should like wear covered or closed the footwears, not like use like these open shoes. So this is actually not allowed, because if there is some chemicals spillage on your foot, so there are chances like burning or any like injury can happen. So always prefer to use like these footwears, like according to the I'm not like saying like this one, of course this is for different purpose, okay. So each like the normal like the footwear that we use, like the covered one, so of course they have different purposes or different usage, okay. And of course don't like use the open footwear. So this is really very important. And then of course, this is very important, if you did not wear the closed shoes, and then you are going to make the closed shoes by yourself, so this is not allowed actually, using like these uh, the gloves. So this is, you see the gloves are wear to your photo, so this is actually not allowed. Okay, so it's better to wear your proper like the clothes shoes. So IPP, so of course the protection of the eye is also very important while you are working, and there are chances of flying objects or dust particles, and you have to protect your eyes from this certain like splashes of hazard materials. Okay, so those can be harmful. So there are certain tools or the dust or like flying chemicals, so they can cause like injury to your eyes. So there are different types of eyeglasses. For example, the safety glasses according to the nature of the work. So BL1. So this is the first grade like labs, the safety glasses, and the second one is BL2, and the third one is a BL3, which is also called like a face shield. And BL1 is actually work with significant risk of splashes chemicals. You can see this is can only protect your eyes. But if you see like a BL2, this is more powerful because it not only protect your eyes but also eye sockets, and a little bit like a facial, because this is a, you can see this is has outer covering complete coverage of your eye sockets. And BL3 used for high impact, like if there is more like dangerous chemicals, or there are chances it can also splashes on your face, so then you can use like this face shield or BL3. And of course uh, there are certain face PPE, they also needed when you are working on certain chemicals or radiations, and there are chances of flying objects or particles that can also uh, the hurt your body, the face especially. So the face shield especially like use to protect the face, and also not only like the eyes, but it is better like to use this for a certain the dangers. Hearing PP, so this is commonly used one. So there is a mostly like in workshops or maybe like engineering stuff. There are when there are chances of like a more than 8 hour period. You have continuous noise. Okay, so if this is a, so then there are chances that there is a the hearing losses. So the examples of high noises can be like into different construction areas, mechanical rooms, or like a high machinery or power tools where are working. So for the eyes PP, you can select according to you the nature of the hazard. For example, there are certain types like canal caps, ear muffs are available, as well as the ear plugs. So according to the intensity of the voice or the sounds, or okay, the noises, so you can select the hearing. Let's discuss about the masks and respiratory PP. So they are needed when work presents in inhalation hazards, of course. So I think everybody well aware about the usage of the mask, or the role or the importance of the mask nowadays, because everyone has to wear while you are going outside from the home. So masks are very important. I think everybody knows them. So there are chances of toxic chemicals if there is a the air droplets, or like any aerosol, or like any biopathogens, those are floating into the air. So of course for that particular the protection, we use the mask PP. And in severe cases, for example, we have different N95 respirator, so they are more like powerful, and of course they can provide like a better protection, of course. So they are might be they are used like under severe conditions, but normally like the normal surgical masks are used for normal like the activities. Head PP is also very important when there are chances to expose certain hazard to the head. So we need to wear the head protection or the head PP. If you are working into certain like a workplace, and there are chances of falling objects, or during the construction sites, or near the exposed energized electrical equipment, okay, then definitely we need to wear the certain head PP. So there are different types according to the working conditions, but I just mentioned two types of head PPT, type 1 and type 2. So type 1 is only protect your head, and if some object is falling, so it will can protect against that falling objects. But type 2 is more stronger than type 1. It also not only protect your head, but it also protect the side impact of your head. So it is cover like more area, not like on the top of the head, but also on the surrounding areas. Removal of PP is very important. If you wearing your like a whole body PP, so then definitely first step is to remove the gloves. And once you remove the gloves, your head your hands will be free, right? And then of course you can use your hands to remove other PPE. The second one is the aprons, and third goggles, and then of course mask. So this arrangement, the sequence is very important. Okay, so you cannot remove like your first mask, because otherwise you are going to contaminate the other body parts, or like the other the PPE. PPE excuses. So this is very important. So if you are working in the lab, even 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and then mostly like the students they don't bother, and they don't care about like the wear the PPE. For example, they may sometime like might be like the workers can make like the excuses. I was in a hurry and accidents not happen to me because I'm very confident. I'm working like very carefully. Okay, so this is also like a kind of a confidence. So this is excuses. It's only take 1 minute. Okay, so I will finish, like I just want to transfer this chemical into the reaction, and then I will run the equipment. Then after 1 hour I will come back, right? So this is just only 1 minute is enough to put your life into danger. Okay, so these are the commonly used excuses, like the you can say like lame excuses or like easiness. Okay, maintenance and repair of PP. So this is a universal rule, as I mentioned. So do not use PP if it's damaged. For example, if your glove or any PP is damaged, don't use it because it's more risk to harm your body or put your body in danger. And if it's needed to repair, you don't use those PP. It is the responsibility of the student to make supervisor to aware the student that like if there is a damage or anything happened to the PP. So this is especially like not about the gloves PP. Okay, if your gloves or something like very common thing, no. So these, for example, some certain eyeglasses, like eye protection, like the face protection. So these are only like a few number of PP available in the lab. So if that but rare PP is damaged or something happened, so just inform your supervisor or the technician so that they can manage or can replace like with the new one. So do not attempt to repair any PP. Okay, even in the anything any if any sensitive PP can break down or some malfunctioning. Okay, so you don't try to repair that PP. So just report that even to the technician or your supervisor. Last but very important slide, whenever you're working in the lab, so never forget to do these two things: final check and dispose of. So final check, for example, if you are working on a certain working bench, or like you are working on the biosafety cabinets or wherever you're working, so return unused equipment, chemical apparatus, whatever you are using, keep them back on their original position from where you took. Okay, and leave lab coat in the lab. Okay, and wash your hands. So don't even leave your lab without your hand washing, because might be your the hands are contaminated. So if you did not wash, then of course wherever you go, wherever you touch your hands with your car keys, etc. Okay, so always so this is really very important. And secondly, dispose of course while you're working, so you produce some of course disposal, for example tips, tissues, paper maybe, and many other things. Okay, so identify and dispose of the certain chemicals, tips, whatever, according to the disposal. So there are, because in each lab there are different types of garbages or disposal, the cabinets or like the bins you can see, and according to the disposal you just dispose of your material. And of course, decontaminate work surfaces and equipments. So whenever you leave your working bench, always use like 70% ethanol or any decontaminate chemical that's available in the lab. So just to decontaminate your surface area and then leave. For example, if there is any spot or like a spillage of a certain chemical, and somebody can touch, or maybe like without knowing, because because you were working and you know like which chemical you use in that particular area. Okay, so this is really very important. While you are living in the lab, you should check like these things, that everything is fine. So I hope this is very easy question, and this is very easy, the lectures. And these two lectures, this first one and this is the second one. So these two lectures are included in the test one. So I already sent you the email. So if you have any question regarding this lecture 2 or lecture 1, so on next Thursday, so inshallah I will be online, and you can ask questions. Okay, thank you so much.